Literally this time last year I built this garden furniture and I treated it pretty carefully at the time, or so I thought. Little did I know that under 12 months later I'd be having to completely strip down and reseal this furniture. In today's video I'm going to show you what I used, why it was a complete disaster and what I've done to fix the problem. And this is what I used. Now this was in no small part down to laziness because I had this lying about for another project I didn't use it for, but I did a bit of research and I was told it should be all right. Universal preserver, nothing wrong with that. A lot of my colleagues on YouTube have used this to good effect, but this is the problem, the Fidders high build wood oil. Now, if you watch my channel regularly, you know I'm not a fan of products that just sit on the surface. I hate varnishes, paints and stains that don't sink in properly. Which is why I thought by getting this, I was using an oil. After all, it says on the can, it's an oil. The problem is it also says it's a high build wood oil. Now, if you Googled high build oil, you'd think you'd found the holy grail of exterior wood treatment. Highly durable, resistant to peeling and flaking, yeah right, ability to repel water and UV protection. I carefully put 3 coats onto this outdoor furniture, which is a Siberian larch. And what it did is it formed this horrible orangey yellow colour. And you can't say this is an oil, it's a varnish. Now, there's an argument that Siberian larch, and I got this before lockdown, so this is genuine Siberian larch. I don't know whether you can get it now, but there is an argument that it doesn't need much by way of preserving, which is kind of why I bought it. The problem is when you're working with it, it looks and feels just like redwood, just like pine. So it was crying out, as far as I was concerned, to have a bit of treatment. But if you look at what's happened in the 12 months since I built it, it's very interesting. UV protection. Well, there's clearly not much of that, because what you can see here, it's happened all over the place, but particularly on the flat surfaces that are directly subjected to the sun, the varnish has basically completely disintegrated. And don't forget, this furniture has been protected with covers all through the winter. Fully bespoke. I measured up and ordered online from these people. Been great. Link in the description. Another link I'm not being paid for. Check them out. Really pleased with mine. Now this could be for one of 2 reasons. Either the power of the sun was too much. When you see UV protection on any oils or varnishes, you want to take that with a pinch of salt, because at the end of the day nothing can protect wood from the ultraviolet harm from the sun. So UV protection is rarely worth the tin it's written on. That's one thing. Secondly, it kind of looks to me as if the larch has gone, I don't need this, get off. Because basically it's rejected it, it's all peeling off, and underneath you've got this lovely silvering effect. Sure, you've got a little bit of blackening in places, but generally speaking, it's all in very good nick still. So why bother doing anything with it? Well, it doesn't look great, and after all that hard work making it, I want to protect it for the future, but see it aging authentically. So the plan today is to strip off as much of that oil as I can and treat it with what it should have been treated with in the first place. More on that in a minute. Let's get on while we've still got some decent weather. Today's toolkit is an interesting one, mainly because the things that I thought would work well didn't, but I'll explain further what I mean by that as we get to each bit in the video. And as usual, details of everything I've used today will be in the description below, which you can access by clicking on the links as usual. So to remove the Fidders oil, I thought, great, I'll whack on a 60 grit pad and zone out whilst the random orbit sander does its work. Well, on the evidence of the first run, this was going to take a long time. Damn it, I thought it was going to be much easier than this. So I swapped out the discs for some 60 grit zirconium discs from Trend. If zirconium's good enough for nuclear reactor fuel rod cladding, it's good enough for my garden furniture. And the durability of it is night and day better than the generic discs that you should avoid on Amazon. Seriously, don't waste your money on these. I bought a load a while back and they last a matter of minutes. Right, 60 grit seems to be the sweet spot, so I'm gonna put some music on, connect up the vacuum and stick this on time lapse and you can see how I got on. And that is what I did. I decided to sand all the surfaces you can actually see, choosing not to completely take the slats apart and sand the underside of the furniture, which is still in pretty good nick, away from the sun and the worst of the elements.
Where have you been? Did you see? Did you
Now I've got some fabulous skill tools. Unfortunately this isn't one of them. The vibrations were starting to give me quite bad pins and needles in my hands, so I switched back to my old Ryobi random orbit sander. Almost zero vibrations. Lovely little tool this in spite of its age. The bed does rotate a little bit too much though. And in the tricky corners I use my detail sander and if necessary a bit of sandpaper wrapped around a beveled edged offcut to get into the corners, finishing off if necessary with a chisel. I also tried 40 grit zirconium discs but found this too brutal. It roughened up the surface too much and left circular grit marks in the timber, so 60 is, as far as I'm concerned, the perfect option. So having dissed unbranded sanding discs on Amazon, I did buy a load of these also zirconium discs on the platform a while back to sand the bubbles off the kitchen floor before timing, and they've also been pretty effective on this seating. But they just don't wear very well compared to these trend discs that have had a lot of traffic on this job. So my conclusion to all this is trend still rules the day in terms of good value discs that are pro grade in terms of durability. Although Sam on my Discord members forum will tell you that for the best discs on the market, look no further than Cubitron 2. So the 18 volt Ryobi was doing a good job, but I was constantly keeping an eye on the batteries. I need to up my game a bit, so I bought this DIYte on Amazon, just arrived. Thanks to a recommendation from GS Dev, again on my Discord channel. See how we get on with it. And I'm going to treat it to a new trend disc. And I really like the click-in dust bag. And the result, well, pretty similar to the Ryobi, if perhaps a little more powerful. Well, it's light, there's almost no vibration at all. Can't really feel any vibration actually. And yeah, so far so good. So I finished the sanding with my new DIYte sander and will be defaulting to 240 volts on future projects where a lot of sanding needs doing. But I'd done a whole bench with a 40 grit paper, and conscious of how rough the surface was, I thought I'd try a 180 grit mesh disc with a pad saver. Great results, nice smooth bench, and in case you were wondering, with the mesh discs degrading much quicker than the zirconium versions, this is why you use a pad saver. The eagle-eyed amongst you would have noticed that some of these slats were moving when I was sanding them, and I thought the screws had basically worn loose, but actually it's better than that. The slats have shrunk a bit over the last 12 months, and all that is needed is that the stainless steel screws I put in need a bit of a tighten, which is pulling the slats really nicely back onto the little base slat pieces I put in. So good news for any of you who have bought your plans for this build, which will also be in the link in the description below today's video. Hopefully your bench has held up as well as mine has, because right now everything I designed on it is working well, and in fairness to that Fidder's oil, on the underside where it's not in exposure to the UV, it's actually looking pretty good. Look at that, no more wobbling, no more loose slats. Very pleased with that. This is where I came unstuck last time, and I was determined not to make the same mistake again. I'm putting some sample, I've got a little sample pot of Treatex larch oil. I really wanted to use this stuff because I love Treatex. I've used it on all my wood floors, inside and on my front door. You might have seen that video, there's a link on screen now. And it just smells incredible, which is in no small part due to the base of raw materials it's manufactured from. But unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to use it because for this job, it's just got a little bit too much pigment in it. Don't think DIYte will be very happy with the colour. She wants it to silver naturally. But it's a pigment that gives the wood the UV protection, and this Treatex is one of the better products out there for UV protection. So reluctantly, I think what I'm going to have to use today is, not today because I'm still waiting for a pot to arrive in the post, is this wooden stone. So cool because you can weirdly use it on wood as well as stone. Funny that. It's from Owatrol, whatever you call it. Oh, some of it's already gone on my patio. And from this time lapse you can see how this treatment on a large offcut left over from the furniture build dries to a near invisible finish. So I got a dust sheet out on the patio and used my new favourite gadget, these furniture rollers, to transport each bench onto the dust sheet for treatment. And with the tub now having arrived from Owotrol direct, 92 quid including VAT and £8 shipping for a 2.5 litre tub, so this stuff really isn't cheap, but what wood treatment is these days. But it goes on really easily and dries pretty much instantly. I did break a couple of rules of application here, as you're not meant to apply it in direct sunlight to hot surfaces. Couldn't do much about the sunlight, but the furniture certainly wasn't hot. And what about the colour? Well, I suppose it's a bit yellower than I would have liked, but I have no doubt that in the sun it will quickly bleach and silver. But also, if you compare it with the original larch offcut, it looks pretty good, doesn't it? That's what it would have looked like if I'd painted it with a Treatex larch oil. So all in all, I'm pretty happy. What I didn't like so much was what happened after we had some heavy rainfall the night after applying the first coat. Right, I wasn't expecting this. We've got these drip marks down the wood, and I can only assume, and they did talk about this in the Owotrol instructions, about if you're repainting something or to get rid of the impurities in the wood, to use a sort of pre-wash, but I can only assume that there are impurities left behind by that dreadful oil which have sort of leached into it and are just sort of draining down. But anyway, I'm going to sand it and give it one more coat. So what happened in the rain got me thinking, is this stuff actually any good? So at this point we only had one coat, and it says in the instructions if water beads on the surface you don't need to apply any more. So that's what I did here, but I wasn't impressed because although it beaded, it was sinking in. And what about that offcut, completely unsullied by the previous oil or any sanding? Well, exactly the same result. Water beads, but it sinks in. This is the Treatex larch oil. So as you'd expect, that's beading as well. Let's leave this for a minute. Oh, look at that. It's not sinking in one bit. If I wipe that off, the wood beneath feels completely dry. So I thought I'd apply a second coat of the wood and stone and do one final bead test. And then left it for several seconds before blowing it away. And I don't think that second coat has really done anything. The water is still clearly sinking into the wood, and you can see the water clearly leaching out of the beads on this 45-minute or so time lapse I did on the other bench. But after blowing it away, it evaporated without leaving any marks. So I don't know how well this treatment will work, but what I will do is post an update in a year's time to show you the effects. And I think what we'll see is a nicely silvered over surface and no deterioration in the wood. Basically a well-protected surface, even though the water does seem to be sinking in for some reason. You can already see the silvering effect in action. Owotrol is one of the best preservation brands. I trust it implicitly, so let's see how we get on. And I suppose the message I want to get across from today's video is if you're thinking of building some outdoor furniture or constructing anything, maybe cladding a garden room or even your house, think really carefully about what timber you're going to use and what effect you want to get. Because obviously the timber that you choose will very much impact on the preservation that you can apply to it and what products you use to do that. And companies like Owotrol and Treatex have a range of different oils and finishes depending on which wood you've chosen. And it is a confusing landscape, as you can see by this other similar product by Owotrol called Textrol, although I don't think the finish that it achieves would please my other half. And given how confusing it is, it would be great for anyone watching this video to hear from you in the comments about what products you've used to good effect on your timber. Also, as we've seen today with that fitters, don't just take the manufacturer's word for it on how well the preservation will work. Apart from anything else, the wood you've bought and the conditions, this is south-facing here, will also impact very much on the performance, I suppose, of the product, whatever that is. Steer clear of stains, absolutely hate them, and if you can, varnishes. And have a look at real life experiences like mine to see how these products actually work out in the field. Thanks for watching today. I hope you found this video useful. If you have, do click on the thumbs up button below. And also, it would be amazing to have you subscribe if you're new to my channel. You can do that by clicking on the link here. And don't forget to click the bell notification icon so you get notified of all my future uploads. See you next week.